Welcome to Upshift. In the second episode, we were talking about the first 5 steps that you need to follow when you are formulating a sustainability strategy for your business. Today, we are going to talk about the step number 6. We call it as materiality assessment. The materiality assessment can be considered as the foundation of your sustainability strategy. If your foundation is strong, then your strategy is also stronger. Having said that, let me explain you what materiality assessment is all about. Materiality assessment is a systematic process to determine the prioritize environmental, social, and governance issues and the opportunities for the business as well as its stakeholders. Now you may be wondering how you can conduct a materiality assessment. I am going to explain basics 6 steps that we need to follow when it comes to materiality assessment. Step number 1. First, you need to determine the scope and objectives of the materiality assessment. The scope is the boundary that you are going to conduct the materiality assessment. For example, in the value chain, how you are considering the boundary of it. And also, who is going to involve in for your materiality assessment. If there is any stakeholder that you are going to engage, who are they? In addition, you are going to determine what are the outcomes that you expect from the materiality assessment. When it comes to objectives of the materiality assessment, number 1 may be how you are going to determine the material topics or the materiality for your business. Number 2 may be whom you are going to involve in the process. Number 3 may be you are going to determine based on the materiality assessment what you are going to do. For example, you may be coming up with a sustainability strategy as we discussed in this particular episode. So these are some of the objectives that you are going to set up when it comes to materiality assessment process. After determining the scope of the materiality assessment, the next step is about identifying what are the material topics. How you are going to do that? If you could remember, in the second episode we were talking about you need to understand what standards you are going to follow. That's one of the ways that you could determine what material topics that you need to investigate. For example, if you are following GRI standard, it has environmental, social, and governance indicators or the impact areas or topics that you could go through. If you are following sustainable development goals, again you have set of goals and the areas there that you could focus as materiality topics. If you are going to follow CSRD from European Union, again there is a set of indicators or the topics that you could investigate. Not only that, but also there are many other ways of that you could come up with or finding material topics for your business. For instance, if you are working with global brands, they may have their own sustainability strategy and impact areas that they have prioritized. Then those also can be considered as input for you to determine whether that has to be considered for your material topics. In summation, identifying material topics using international standards or standards followed by your customers or the clients or even other frameworks that's been exposed or the issues that you have identified in the global context can be considered as inputs for the identifying of material topics. Step number 3. After identifying materiality topics, you need to categorize them. For example, when you are incorporating different standards, you may have to club all this into one. In one standard, it may be focusing about energy. In some other standard, it may be talking about greenhouse gas emission. Someone else may be talking about climate change and climate action. You may have to collate all these into one category and talk about maybe climate change impact or the greenhouse gas impact. Similarly, for all these material topics, you can categorize into different areas or different topics that organization can identify effectively. After doing the categorization, step number 4 is about how you are going to evaluate the impact of it. To do that, you need to identify who are the stakeholders that you are going to engage in. External stakeholders as well as internal stakeholders. In the second video, we were talking about how to identify prioritized stakeholders. Now you need to list down who are those prioritized stakeholders and how you are going to reach out to them to evaluate the importance of the identified or categorized material topics for them. It may be conducting an interview or doing a survey, or maybe you are going to understand what they have been doing in those particular material topics. Whatever it is, you need to determine who are the stakeholders and how you are going to reach out to them. Step number 5 is, after you identifying who are the external and internal stakeholders that you are going to reach out and the way that you are going to reach out, you are going to evaluate the impact. To do that, first you need to gather information from those stakeholders. Once you gather information, you need to evaluate the impact in different ways. One of the ways we call it as single materiality. The second way that we are calling it as the double materiality. We are going to talk about both single materiality assessment and double materiality assessment in a separate episode. But after conducting this materiality assessment, you can prioritize what are the most impactful material topics for your business. Step number 6 is, once you conduct the materiality assessment with the engagement of internal and external stakeholders and the calculation of the impact, you are going to take your prioritized materiality topics with your senior leadership. Your senior leadership will provide required inputs for your materiality topics so that you could refine it. Apart from the senior leadership, you could take the support of an industry expert. Industry expert also could support you refine your materiality assessment. Those are the 6 steps that you need to follow when it comes to materiality assessment. Now you know how to conduct a materiality assessment for your business. If I summarize the steps that you need to follow, first you need to determine the scope and the objectives of the materiality assessment. Second, you need to identify materiality topics that you are going to investigate. Step number 3 is, you need to categorize those materiality topics into common categories. Step number 4 is, you need to determine who are the stakeholders, both internal as well as external stakeholders that you are going to engage with and how you are going to engage with them. Step number 5 is, you are going to gather information with the engagement of your stakeholders and also evaluate the impact of these materiality topics so that you could prioritize materiality topics. Step number 6 is about, once you prioritize the materiality topics, you can review it with your senior leadership as well as with industry expert to refine it. Once you refine it, you have the prioritized materiality topic for your business. Now you know how to conduct the materiality assessment for the business. Once you conduct the materiality assessment, you can come up with the environmental, social and governance strategy for the business. In next episode onwards, we are going to discuss more details about different steps in the materiality assessment. Stay tuned.